Welcome to The Explainer. You know, our world is changing at a pace that feels like something straight out of science fiction. There's this massive wave of new technology washing over us. But is it taking us to some kind of golden age? Or is it leading us somewhere, well, a lot more destructive? That's what we're going to dig into today. These huge shifts that are shaping our future right now.
You've probably heard this quote from Arthur C. Clarke before. Any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. And wow, does that hit home today. It perfectly captures that feeling of awe and maybe, just maybe, a little bit of fear we get when we look at the tech around us. It really does feel like magic. But here's the kicker. What happens when that magic stops being magical and just becomes normal?
All right, so here's our game plan. First, we're going to look at the magic of the tech we have right now. Then we'll jump back in time to see what past revolutions can teach us. After that, we'll tackle this big disconnect between what we were promised and what we've got. And I'll show you there's actually a historical pattern that explains it. And finally, we'll talk about where we go from here. So let's dive right in. Section 1, a new age of magic. Are we living in the future? I mean, it really does feel like it, doesn't it? It's like we're surrounded by these breakthroughs that once seemed impossible, and the crazy part is how quietly they just showed up. Let's just rewind the clock for a second, and not even that far. Just back to 2016. It feels like yesterday, but that year was a turning point. You had an AI, AlphaGo, that beat the world champion in Go, a game that has more possible moves than there are atoms in the universe. Think about that. At the same time, another AI was composing music that experts said was more Bach-like than Bach. And while all that was happening, self-driving trucks were literally starting to cross the American continent. And AIs were getting good enough to beat those CAPTCHA tests. You know, the ones designed specifically to fool them. And it's the sheer scale of it all that's just mind-blowing. Get this, there are 7.9 billion mobile phones in the world. Compare that to 3.5 billion toothbrushes. So let that sink in. We have more than twice as many portals to the entire world's knowledge in our pockets than we do basic tools for brushing our teeth. That's not just a fun fact, that's staggering. So all this power, right, this magic that we all carry around, it boils down to one huge, unavoidable question for our era. Is this all leading to a utopia? You know, a future with more prosperity, more free time for everyone? Or are we paving the road to a dystopia, a darker, more divided, more unequal world? Utopia or dystopia? Okay, so how do we even start to answer that question? Well, for Section 2, we need to look backward. History's great leaps can tell us a lot about our own. See, our progress as a civilization has never been this smooth, straight line. It happens in these explosive bursts, these huge leaps forward, usually kicked off by one game-changing technology. And when you look at history, you see this incredible pattern of acceleration. Take the Renaissance. In just 50 years, Europe basically crammed in 600 years worth of progress in art and science. Then came the Industrial Revolution. The steam engine shows up and boom, in 60 years, you get 300 years of industrial progress. And then electricity comes along and does it again. Another 300-year leap, this time in just 50 years. It's a clear pattern. So when you see that pattern, the question just begs to be asked, right? We've got this incredible new technology all around us. So are we on the edge of another one of those great leaps? Are we about to see a similar or maybe even bigger explosion in prosperity? And this brings us to Section 3, the Great Modern Disappointment. This is where things get complicated. It's this frustrating paradox, because you'd think with all this magic tech, we'd be seeing that huge economic boom history promised us. But for most people, it just hasn't shown up. I mean, for decades now, we've had this vision dangled in front of us, right? This future of robots and AI doing all the work, creating this world of ease and wealth for everyone. It was dreamed up back in the 50s and 60s, but here we are, and that future still feels like it's always just 5 or 10 years away. And this gets to the heart of what economists call the productivity paradox. It's a real head-scratcher. On one side, you have the promise. AI, automation, instant communication, all of these tools that should be making us insanely productive. But on the other side, you have the reality.
For a lot of us, real prosperity growth has slowed to a crawl. It's nothing like the economic boom our parents or grandparents saw. So this leads you to ask a really tough question. It almost feels wrong to even say it out loud, but what if this digital revolution, with all its cool apps and gadgets, just isn't as revolutionary as the big ones from the past? What if it just doesn't have the same economic punch as, say, steam power or electricity? But what if that's the wrong question? What if the tech isn't weak, but our timing is just off? This brings us to section 4, the inevitable lag effect. Because history shows us something really important and kind of counterintuitive. The biggest leaps forward almost always start with disappointment. See, these huge breakthroughs don't just flip a switch and change the world overnight. They actually follow a pretty predictable 4-stage journey. First, you get the invention, the cool new thing. But then, and this is the key part, you get a long, frustrating phase of disappointment. This is where the new technology just doesn't work well with the old way of doing things. It's only after that, after we adapt everything else, that we finally get the real massive transformation. So let's give this a name because it's a really important concept. We'll call it the disappointment lag. It's that period of time after the big invention, but before we really see the benefits kick in, because we're still trying to figure out how to use it. It's that frustrating gap. And the crucial thing to understand is that this lag isn't a fluke, it's the norm. It's the rule, not the exception. And you see this play out over and over again in history. The very first steam engines, people thought they were just noisy, inefficient toys. Electricity, for decades, it was just a cool party trick for scientists, not something you'd use to light up your house. And the automobile, people legitimately argued that horses were better because, hey, where are the paved roads? Where are the gas stations? The boom from these technologies only came after we rebuilt our world around them. So that brings us to our final section, our path forward. Because if this historical pattern holds true, it means we are living right smack in the middle of the disappointment lag for the digital age. We have the invention, we have the magic, we just haven't built the world for it yet. And this is the critical part. The outcome isn't set in stone. It all comes down to the choices we make right now.
Think of it like we're standing at a fork in the road with two very different paths ahead. And the wild thing is, the exact same technologies lead down both paths. In one future, automation becomes the greatest gift we've ever received, the gift of time. It frees us up to be more creative, to solve bigger problems. But on the other path, it creates a massive subclass of people left behind, creating inequality on a scale that would make today look like a paradise.
But here's the hopeful part. We have been at this exact fork in the road before. People predicted all kinds of dystopian nightmares during the Industrial Revolution. But what did we do? We adapted. We invented the weekend. We shortened the 18-hour workday. And in doing so, we created a better society. Think about household appliances in the 1960s. They didn't just get chores done, they freed up millions of hours of labor, helping enable more women to enter the professional workforce. We adapted. We turned a potential problem into massive progress.
But we can't get complacent. The stakes are incredibly high. The visionary Nikola Tesla warned us about this. He said our lifetime will see human-made horrors that our minds cannot comprehend. The power we're playing with now is immense. It holds the potential for both incredible creation and, if we're not careful, really terrifying destruction. And that brings us to the final, most important takeaway. The technology is here. That part's done. The real question, the one that will define our future, isn't about inventing the next cool gadget. It's about whether we are ready to adapt. Are we ready to build the new schools, the new economies, the new social rules that can actually handle this technology and make sure it works for everyone? Because in the end, the future isn't going to be decided by the magic of the technology. It's going to be decided by us.